Staring up at its imposing Victorian facade, that's what I keep telling myself, I never wanted Westgrove House. The late afternoon sun makes the house look like it's wearing a veil of darkness, casting long shadows across the overgrown lawn. My name is Eleanor Webb. Just a normal 28-year-old graphic designer living in Boston is what I was, 3 weeks ago. Then my great-aunt Agatha died, and everything changed. Only twice had I met her, once when I was 7, and again at my father's funeral 5 years ago. Distant and severe, she had been, with eyes that seemed to look through you rather than at you. At the wake, I remember how she'd gripped my wrist and whispered, "The blood remembers, Eleanor. It always remembers." The voice startles me, and I turn to find Mr. Blackwood, my great-aunt's solicitor, standing beside me. A thin man with papery skin and wire-rimmed glasses. I suppose I say I still don't understand why she left it to me. We barely knew each other. Mr. Blackwood's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Agatha was very particular about her wishes. The house must remain in the family. Her only living blood relative, you were. There's something in the way he emphasizes blood that makes my skin crawl. Well, I'll probably just sell it, I say. I can't imagine living here. Mr. Blackwood clears his throat. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Ms. Webb. At least not immediately. I frown. What do you mean? Perhaps we should go inside, he says. Certain conditions to your inheritance we need to discuss. Heavy and ornate is the key he hands me. With surprising ease, it turns in the lock, and the door swings open with a low creak. Like stepping back in time is the interior of Westgrove House. Heavy velvet drapes frame tall windows, in the corners, antique furniture draped in white sheets stands like ghosts. Of mothballs, old books, and something else I can't quite place, the air smells. Something organic and vaguely sweet. This way, Mr. Blackwood says, leading me into a sitting room. From a high-backed leather chair, he removes the sheet and gestures for me to sit. Ms. Webb, a rather unusual stipulation your great-aunt's will contains. Westgrove House and her considerable estate, approximately $2 million, you inherit on one condition. I lean forward. A lot of problems $2 million would solve. What condition? For 1 full year, you must live in Westgrove House. For more than 72 consecutive hours during this time, you cannot be absent. If you fail to meet this condition, to the Blackwood Historical Society, the house and the entire estate will be donated. I blink. The Blackwood? As in your family? He has the decency to look somewhat embarrassed. Yes, my grandfather founded it. But I assure you, over Agatha's decision, I had no influence. Ridiculous, this is, I say, standing up. I can't just abandon my life for a year to live in this mausoleum. Yours, of course, the choice is, he says, but a significant sum is $2 million. Through my hair, I run a hand. Is that it? Just live here for a year. Almost, he says. Into his briefcase, he reaches and pulls out a thick document. One other matter, there is. Somewhat unusual, but most insistent Agatha was. Through the pages, he flips, then points to a paragraph marked in red. Over to read it, I lean, and as I do, a chill runs down my spine. Simple yet bizarre, the clause is. Between the hours of midnight and 1 a.m., the inheritor must never, under any circumstances, remain in the east wing of the house. Non-negotiable and of utmost importance, this condition is. At Mr. Blackwood, I look up, waiting for him to crack a smile, to tell me some kind of joke this is, but deadly serious his expression remains. What happens if I do stay in the east wing after midnight? I ask. Consequences, the contract doesn't specify, he says carefully. Only that binding and non-negotiable the condition is. Did my great-aunt explain why? Mr. Blackwood doesn't smile. With me, Agatha didn't share her reasons. At the contract, I stare. To walk away, part of me wants to tell Mr. Blackwood he can have his creepy old house and whatever secrets it holds. But $2 million, my student loans I could pay off, a place of my own I could buy, maybe even that design studio I've always dreamed about I could start. And really, how hard could it be to avoid one section of the house for 1 hour each night? Fine, I say, taking the pen he offers. I'll do it. As I sign my name, the feeling that I'm making a terrible mistake I can't shake. In what was once my great-aunt's bedroom, I sleep that night. I leave the bedside lamp, telling myself it's just so I won't trip if I need to find the bathroom in the night, not because when I'm not looking directly at them, the shadows in the corners seem to move. Of corridors that stretch and twist, I dream, of doors that open onto other doors, and somewhere in the distance, a clock chiming midnight. With a start, I wake, my heart pounding. 3:17 a.m., the bedside clock reads. The lamp I left on has gone out, but through the gap in the curtains, moonlight filters. And something else there is. A sound. A faint rhythmic creaking like footsteps on old wooden floors. Perfectly still, I lie, straining to listen. The sound stops, then starts again. Closer now. From the hallway outside my room, it's coming. Hello. I call out, my voice embarrassingly thin. No response, just the creaking, stopping just outside my door. I watch, barely breathing, as slowly, almost imperceptibly, the doorknob turns. Then it stops. A long moment passes, and then the creaking starts again, moving away down the hall. Again that night, I don't sleep. In the morning, foolish I feel. Noises, old houses make. Everyone knows that. Floors settle, pipes knock, through cracks in the windows, wind finds its way. Nothing supernatural about it, there's. The ground floor, I spend the day exploring, opening windows to let in fresh air, from furniture, removing sheets, and making notes about what needs to be cleaned or repaired. Nearly evening it's by the time the east wing I remember. Unconsciously avoiding it, I've been, I realize, as at the entrance to a long hallway that stretches from the main part of the house, I stand. A set of double doors carved with an intricate pattern of leaves and vines separates it from where I stand. Not locked, they're just closed, as if suggesting a boundary that shouldn't be crossed. But only 6 p.m. it's, and after midnight only, the mysterious clause applies. No harm in taking a look now, there is. The doors, I push open, which move smoothly despite their apparent age and weight. Darker, the hallway beyond is, the windows covered with heavy drapes. A light switch, I flick, and over faded wallpaper and more shrouded furniture, antique wall sconces cast a warm yellow glow. Mostly bedrooms and sitting rooms, the east wing seems to be, all decorated in the same Victorian style as the rest of the house. As particularly unusual or threatening, nothing stands out. So why the midnight restriction? In one room larger than the others, what appears to be a study I find. Lining the walls, bookshelves are filled with leather-bound volumes. The center of the room, a massive desk dominates. When I notice a small leather-bound book tucked between two larger volumes, I'm about to leave. Unlike the others, no title on its spine, this one has. Curious, I pull it out and open it to find handwritten pages in faded ink. A diary. Dated April 17, 1887, the first entry is. Finally complete, Westgrove is. After 3 years of construction, at last I can bring Margaret and the children to our new home. Particularly fine, the east wing is with views over the garden that will be spectacular once the landscaping is finished. My study there, I have set up, where undisturbed I can work. To Jeremiah Westgrove, the diary belongs, the original owner of the house and my great-great-great-grandfather. Through more entries, I flip, most mundane accounts of social calls and family matters. But then a few months later, the tone changes. September 3, 1887. Begun again, the dreams have. I had hoped they would cease once we left England, but followed me across the ocean, it seems they have. Last night, at precisely midnight, I woke to find myself standing in my study, though no recollection I have of walking there. I sleepwalk, Margaret insists, but more than that, I know it is. In that room, watched I feel, observed by eyes I cannot see. A chill I feel as I read the next entry dated a week later. September 10th, 1887. No longer just sleepwalking, it is. In the study at night, voices I hear. Whispers too faint to make out, but persistent. Them, Margaret does not hear. Last night, until midnight, I forced myself to remain awake, sitting in my study. As the clock struck 12, so suddenly the temperature in the room dropped I could see my breath. And then I saw it. A shadow where no shadow should be. Moving independently of any object in the room. Mad, I am not. In Westgrove House, something there is. From the old country, something that has followed me. Increasingly disturbed, the entries continue. From shadows and whispers to objects moving on their own, Jeremiah describes phenomena that escalate, strange smells, and eventually full apparitions, ghostly figures that appear in the East Wing at midnight. Dated November 1st, 1887, the final entry is: a terrible mistake I have made. To establish communication, the séance was meant to understand what they want from me. But a door I have opened that cannot be closed. Just spirits, they are not. Hungry, they are. And a feast to them, I have offered. Immediately, Margaret and the children must leave Westgrove. Stay I will and find a way to contain what I have unleashed. If I fail, on my soul, may God have mercy. There, the diary ends. Of what was described as brain fever, Jeremiah Westgrove died in late 1887, according to family history. Never returned to Westgrove, his wife and children, though in the family, the house remained, passing eventually to my great-aunt Agatha. At my watch, I look. 7:30 p.m. The sun has set and darker the study is growing, the corners filling with shadows that seem deeper than they should be. Very much, I suddenly want to be out of the East Wing. To its place on the shelf, I return the diary and back through the double doors, I hurry, closing them firmly behind me. Again that night, I dream of corridors and doors. But this time, at the end of every passage is the study I found in the East Wing. In each iteration of the dream, I enter the room to find a figure sitting at the desk, its back to me. I call out and slowly it begins to turn, but always I wake before its face I can see. The next morning, into the small town nearest to Westgrove House, Millfield, I drive. A small brick building, the local library is, with Millfield Public Library, established 1891 carved above its entrance. From her desk, the librarian, a woman in her 60s with silver hair, looks up as I enter. "Good morning," she says with a smile. "Around before, I haven't seen you." "New to the area, I am," I explain. "Into Westgrove House, I just moved." Just for a moment, her smile falters. "Westgrove. Agatha Webb's relative then, you are?" "Her great-niece." "Yes. Eleanor Webb." "Martha Crane, I'm." "Your great-aunt, I knew, though not well." To herself mostly, she kept. More about the house, I was hoping to learn. "Any local history books or records I could look at, do you have?" Martha hesitates, then from her desk rises. "A local history section we have and some old newspapers on microfiche. The diary, mentioning I consider, the strange clause in the will, but something holds me back. Just general information. For generations, the house has been in my family, but about its history, much I don't know." To a small room at the back of the library, she leads me, lined with shelves of leather-bound books and archival boxes. As she's about to leave, she asks, "At Westgrove alone, are you staying?" The question surprises me. "Yes." "Why?" "No reason," she shakes her head. "For one person, it's just a big house. In that small room, I spend hours poring over old town records and newspapers. The original plans for Westgrove House I find filed with the town in 1884. Of the original design, the east wing was part, though in the plans, nothing there is to suggest why after midnight it might be off limits. Then, in the November 5, 1887 edition of the Millfield Gazette, a small obituary for Jeremiah Westgrove I find, who died on November 2, just one day after the final entry in his diary. Searching, I keep and find something more intriguing. In the October 30, 1887 edition, a small article reads, "To Westgrove House late last night, local authorities were called after reports of unusual disturbances. Unearthly screams, neighbors reported hearing and in the east wing of the house, seeing lights moving. Merely a séance gone awry, Mr. Westgrove assured constables, part of a Halloween entertainment for guests. No charges were filed. A séance gone awry. Just like Jeremiah mentioned in his final diary entry. Through later newspapers, I continue searching and find something even more disturbing. In March 1888, 4 months after Jeremiah's death, the headline reads, Tragedy at Westgrove House, caretaker found dead. How Thomas Collins, hired to maintain the vacant property, was found dead in the East Wing study, the article describes, his face frozen in an expression of utmost terror. Heart failure, the coroner's official ruling was, though the article notes that Collins was only 36 and had no history of heart problems. Over the next 50 years, 6 more incidents of deaths or disappearances connected to Westgrove House I find. All involving caretakers or trespassers, all occurring in the East Wing, all happening late at night. The last reported incident was in 1943 when to my great-aunt Agatha, the house passed. By the time I leave the library, late afternoon it is. As I pass her desk, Martha looks up. What you were looking for, find, she asks. Some of it, I say, then before adding, I hesitate. About strange occurrences at Westgrove, do you know anything? Deaths or disappearances? Serious, Martha's expression grows. Stories, there are, she admits. Near Westgrove after dark, most people around here won't go. What kind of stories? Haunted, the East Wing is, they say. That brought into this world, something was that shouldn't have been. Something that at midnight wakes and hungers for, well, for human life. Just stories, there, she adds quickly. But real, the deaths were, I say. The newspaper articles, I found. Yes, Martha sighs. Those were real. But accidents, old houses have. Gas leaks, faulty wiring, people fall. 7 people over 50 years, I say, all in the same part of the house, all at night. Directly, she doesn't answer. Instead, she asks, about the house, did your great-aunt ever say anything? About why she lived there alone all those years? About the clause in the will, I think. To me, not. Close, we weren't. Agatha Webb was a strange woman, Martha nods, but things she knew. In town, people respected her, feared her a little. How to handle Westgrove, she knew. Handle it? I ask. What does that mean? At the clock on the wall, Martha glances. Late, it's getting. Before dark, you should head back. That night, before I go to bed, I make sure to lock the double doors that lead to the East Wing. An old iron thing, the key is, that with a heavy clunk turns in the lock. Just a precaution, I tell myself it's, that in ghosts or whatever might lurk in the East Wing at midnight, I don't really believe. But with the bedside lamp on, I still sleep. At 11:45 p.m., I wake. The time glowing red on the digital clock beside my bed. At first, what woke me, I'm not sure. Then I hear it. A soft rhythmic tapping like fingernails against wood. From the double doors that lead to the East Wing, it's coming. Tap. 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 Pause. Tap. 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 Frozen in bed, I lie, my heart hammering in my chest. Just the wind, I tell myself. Noises, old houses make. But as I watch the hands of the clock inch toward midnight, more insistent the tapping grows, more rhythmic. Tap 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 tap. At 11:55, it stops. Worse than the tapping, the sudden silence is almost. To listen, I strain, holding my breath. Then a new sound I hear, a soft click, like a key turning in a lock. The double doors. Them, I'd locked. I know I had. But now the creak of hinges I hear, the whisper of wood against carpet. Opening, the doors are. I should go check. I should grab something heavy to defend myself. An intruder in the house, there must be. But move, I can't. Can't bring myself to leave the relative safety of my bed. 11:58, the clock reads. 1 minute to midnight. Footsteps now I hear, slow and deliberate, moving through the main part of the house toward my bedroom. Like human footsteps, they don't sound. Too heavy, too measured, as if whatever is walking weighs far more than any person should. 11:59. Outside my door, the footsteps stop. At the door knob, I stare, waiting for it to turn, but nothing happens. Just silence, heavy and expectant. To 12 o'clock, the clock ticks over. Midnight. And then I hear it. A voice so close it could be right beside my ear, whispering, "Eleanor." Screaming, I scramble out of bed and against the wall, backing. Empty, the room is. Closed, the door remains, but again the voice comes from everywhere and nowhere. "Eleanor, come to the study. Waiting for you, we've been." Flickers the lamp beside my bed, then goes out, plunging the room into darkness, save for the red glow of the clock. 12:01. Something cold brushes against my cheek like fingertips made of ice. Again I scream and for the door lunge, yanking it open and blindly down the hallway running. Out I have to escape this house and whatever is in it. But as I reach the main staircase, I stop. Below, in the entrance hall, moving shadows are, swirling like smoke, but darker, more substantial. The front door, my escape route, they're blocking. Away, I back, looking frantically for another way out. Again the voice whispers, seeming to come from the very walls around me. "Yes, Eleanor, come to us. Where you belong, it is." Terrified, but seeing no alternative, in the opposite direction I run, away from both the shadows and the east wing. Another way out, there must be. A back door, a window, something. In the kitchen, I find myself, moonlight streaming through uncurtained windows. Here, a door there is that leads outside. To it, I rush, grabbing the handle and turning. Locked, it is. With the deadbolt, I fumble, my fingers clumsy with fear. Behind me, louder the whispers are growing, closer. Coming, the shadows are. Finally, the bolt slides back, and the door open I wrench, stumbling out into the cool night air. Until I reach my car, I don't stop running, with shaking hands fumbling with the keys. On the first try, the engine starts, and down the driveway away from Westgrove House, I speed. At a small motel on the outskirts of Millfield, I end up. In the harsh fluorescent light of the motel room, ridiculous my fear begins to seem. From my own house, had I really run because of some strange noises and tricks of the light? Dreaming, maybe I'd been. Or maybe the stress of inheriting a house I never wanted, of uprooting my life had gotten to me. So real the voice had seemed, calling my name, telling me to come to the study, and the shadows in the entrance hall. Still, that night, I don't go back to Westgrove. In the morning, to sunlight streaming through thin curtains, I wake. In daylight, more irrational my fear seems even. A grip, I need to get. If I'm going to fulfill the conditions of the will and claim my inheritance, a way to live in Westgrove House, I need to find. Simple, the answer is. Between midnight and 1 a.m., I just won't go into the east wing. Whatever I experienced last night, whatever spooked me, face it, I don't have to. Just follow the rules, I have to. Out of the motel, I check in back to Westgrove Drive, stopping in town to buy some supplies, groceries, cleaning products, and on impulse, for the double doors leading to the east wing, a set of new locks. From a new age shop on the town square, I also pick up some sage bundles. With gray dreadlocks and multiple crystal necklaces, the owner, a woman, gives me a knowing look when I tell her where I live. More than sage, Westgrove needs, honey, she says, but doesn't elaborate. When I return to the house, exactly as I left it, everything is open, the kitchen door stands, and a vague memory I have of not pulling it closed in my haste to escape. Inside, quiet, the house is ordinary. Through the windows, sunlight streams, dust motes dancing in the beams. Threatening or strange, nothing seems. Busy, I spend the day keeping, cleaning, putting away groceries, on the double doors to the east wing, changing the locks. Beyond those doors, I don't go, though. Not today. That night, all the windows and doors I make sure are locked, the new deadbolt on the east wing doors securely fastened. A small white noise machine I've bought that plays the sound of ocean waves, which beside my bed I set up to mask any strange noises the house might make. Despite these precautions, for hours, I lie awake, tense and listening. But without incident, midnight comes and goes. No tapping, no whispers, no shadows moving where they shouldn't. Eventually, into an uneasy sleep, I drift. A similar pattern, the next few days follow. More of the house I explore, though still avoiding the east wing, and begin to make it somewhat livable. My laptop I set up and work remotely on some freelance design projects. In town, a few of the locals I meet who regard me with curiosity, but are generally friendly. Directly, no one mentions Westgrove's reputation, but the looks they exchange when they think I'm not watching, I catch. And at night, the east wing doors I lock, turn on my white noise machine, and try to sleep. Sometimes things I hear, creaks and groans that could be the house settling or could be something else. But again, nothing like that first night happens. Maybe it was just my imagination after all, I begin to think. Until the seventh night. Suddenly, I wake, the white noise machine silent. Power outage, I think groggily before noticing that still glows the digital clock. 11:55 p.m. Off, the machine has been turned, not unplugged. And something I can hear. Music, faint but distinct, from somewhere in the house coming. An old song played on what sounds like a phonograph, the kind with a hand crank and a big brass horn. Familiar, the melody is, but just out of reach, something classical, mournful. Perfectly still, I lie, listening. From the east wing, the music is coming, specifically from the study. I should ignore it. My bedroom door lock, put in earplugs, for 1 a.m. to pass weight. The sensible thing to do, that would be. Instead, out of bed, I find myself getting, drawn by curiosity stronger than fear. The music continues, sometimes fading as if the phonograph needs rewinding, then growing stronger again. Into the hallway, as I step, a faint light coming from beneath the double doors to the east wing I notice. Not electric light, but the warm, flickering glow of candles or a fire. Slowly, I approach, my bare feet silent on the carpet. Unlocked again, the new deadbolt I installed is, though I know I locked it before going to bed. In my bedside drawer, the key still is. A crack, I push the door open and peer through. Lit by candles and wall sconces, the hallway beyond is, their flames perfectly still, as if the air itself is holding its breath. Louder now, the music is, unmistakably from the study at the end of the hall coming. And something else there is. Voices, multiple voices, engaged in quiet conversation, punctuated occasionally by soft laughter. Like a party, it sounds. I should close the door, go back to my room, but something compels me forward into the east wing toward the study. Clearer the voices grow as I approach, though what they're saying, I still can't make out. Like English, it sounds, but with an older cadence, formal and slightly stilted. Ajar, the study door is, golden light spilling out into the hallway. I reach in slowly, carefully peer inside. Transformed, the room is. Gone are the dusty sheets and faded wallpaper. New the study looks, or rather old, but well maintained, as it might have looked in the late 1800s when it was first built. In the fireplace, a fire crackles, casting a warm glow over polished wood and leather-bound books. And full of people, the room is, men in formal evening wear, women in long dresses with high collars, all holding glasses of amber liquid that catches the firelight. In animated conversation, they're engaged, seemingly unaware of my presence. In the corner, a phonograph plays that haunting melody. At the center of it all, by the fireplace standing, is a man I recognize from old photographs I found in the library. Jeremiah Westgrove, my ancestor, the original owner of the house. But that's impossible. In 1887, he died, over 130 years ago. As I watch, frozen in disbelief, the clock on the mantel begins to chime midnight. Abruptly, the conversation stops. As one, every person in the room turns to look at me. Their eyes, wrong their eyes are. Black, entirely black. No whites, no irises, just bottomless pits of darkness. Smiles Jeremiah, revealing teeth that are too sharp, too numerous. Eleanor, he says, his voice the same whisper I heard that first night. Joined us, you finally. For so long, waiting we've been. The other guests, things not people, I realize with growing horror, begin to move toward me. Jerky their movements, unnatural, like puppets with half their strings cut. Speaking now they are, all at once, a cacophony of whispers. Blood of our blood. The last Westgrove. Opened, the doorway must be. The thinning time, midnight is. Away, I back, unable to scream, my throat closed with terror. As I retreat, their forms seem to flicker, sometimes appearing as well-dressed Victorian socialites, sometimes as something else entirely, gaunt, elongated figures with too many joints, their skin pale and translucent, showing shadows of organs that pulse and writhe beneath. Into the hallway, they follow me, their movements becoming more fluid, more predatory. And run, I turn, hearing them behind me, to a roar their whispers growing. The double doors I reach and shut slam them, with the key I didn't bring, fumbling. Behind me, with tremendous force, something hits the door, making the wood bulge inward. The idea of locking it, I abandon and for the front door instead run. But as I reach the main hallway, to a stop I skid. With the same swirling shadows I saw that first night, the entrance hall is filled, but now shape they're taking, forming into figures similar to those in the study, reaching for me with hands like twisted branches. Trapped, I am. Its 12th chime, the clock finishes, and forward the shadows surge. In desperation, for the stairs I run, taking them two at a time. Behind me, the double doors to the east wing burst open I hear, the splintering of wood and the rush of cold air. Into the main house, the things from the study pour, joining with the shadow figures. The second floor I reach and blindly down the hallway run, looking for somewhere to hide. Locked, most of the doors are, but under my hand, one gives way. A bathroom, small, but with a solid door and an old-fashioned lock that with a heavy click slides into place. Just as something slams against the other side, I lock myself in, making the door shudder in its frame. Outside, the whispers continue, growing more frantic, more hungry. Open the door, Eleanor. To talk, we only want. So lonely, we've been. Just until 1 o'clock, then you will let go. We promise. Blood of our blood. To warp, the door begins, the wood groaning as if under enormous pressure. The lock rattles, then on its own, to slide back begins. I grab, holding it in place with all my strength, but slowly, inexorably, it continues to move. And then suddenly, everything stops. On the door, the pressure ceases. Silent, the whispers fall. A clock somewhere in the house chiming once I hear. 1 a.m. I wait, barely breathing for several minutes. Nothing happens. Finally, my courage I gather and through the keyhole peek. Empty, the hallway outside is, normal, lit only by the faint glow of a nightlight I'd plugged in earlier. The door I unlock and out cautiously step. Silent the house is, except for the usual creaks and settles of an old building. Whatever was trying to get to me is gone, at least for now. Downstairs I make my way to check the east wing doors. Intact, there, showing no sign of the violence I'd heard. No splintered wood, no broken hinges. Locked, the new deadbolt is. In my bedside drawer where I left it, the key still. The whole thing, had I dreamed? Hallucinated it? I don't think so. Too real the terror was, the details too vivid. At midnight, something happened. Something I can't explain. Again that night, I don't sleep. In the morning, as soon as it opens, to the library I drive. In surprise, Martha looks up as I rush in. Eleanor, you look, she stops, perhaps not wanting to tell me how terrible I must look after a sleepless night. All right, are you? More about Westgrove, I need to know, I say without preamble. About what happens there at midnight. About what Jeremiah Westgrove did. Around the empty library, Martha glances, then nods. To my office, come. Her office is a small room behind the circulation desk crammed with books and papers. The door she closes and for me to sit gestures. Something, you saw, she says. A question, it's not. I nod, too exhausted to lie. In the east wing at midnight. People, things that looked like people from the 1800s. And there Jeremiah Westgrove was. Heavily, Martha sighs. Afraid of this, I was. Again, the cycle is beginning. What cycle? In that house, what's happening? About your family history, how much do you know? About why to America, Jeremiah Westgrove came? Not much, I shake my head. Just that from England, a businessman he was who in the 1880s, Westgrove built. A drawer in her desk, Martha opens and pulls out an old leather-bound book. In the library collection, this isn't. Through my family for generations, it's been passed down. Thomas Collins, my great-great-grandfather was. A chord, the name strikes. The caretaker who died in the house. Yes. Before he took the job at Westgrove, Jeremiah's valet he was, brought over from England. About the family, things he knew that never into public records made it. The book she opens, revealing pages of handwritten text. According to this, just wealthy industrialists in England, the Westgroves weren't. Of a secret society, they were members. Occultists who believed they could communicate with entities from elsewhere. Not spirits of the dead, but something older, something that in the spaces between worlds exists. Of the diary I found, I think, of Jeremiah's mention of a séance gone wrong. What kind of entities? The kind that for our world hunger, for our reality. The kind that a doorway to enter need. A page she turns, revealing a detailed drawing of a circular symbol filled with strange angular writing. The seal of opening, this is. To America, Jeremiah Westgrove came not just to expand his business interests, but from scandal in England to escape. Apparently, one of their rituals went wrong, resulting in several deaths. But what he'd started, he couldn't escape. Him, the entities followed, growing stronger as they found ways to influence our world. According to specific measurements, the east wing of Westgrove House, particularly the study, was built, creating a kind of thin spot between worlds. And at midnight, thinner it becomes, I say, remembering the whispers. The thinning time, midnight is. Nods Martha. Between midnight and 1 a.m., at its weakest the barrier is. Most strongly, that's when they can manifest, when our world directly they can affect. But what do they want? I ask. About blood, they kept talking, about me being the last Westgrove. A grave look, she gives me. According to my ancestors' writings, fully into our world, these entities can enter under specific conditions. A doorway they need, the East Wing study at midnight. And a gatekeeper they need, someone of Westgrove blood, who willingly through invites them. Never I would, I say. Not willingly. Perhaps, she says, but persuasive they are, deceptive. As loved ones, they can appear, things you desire most offer. And for generations, trying they've been, each time growing stronger, learning more about how to manipulate humans. Of how they appeared as Victorian socialites, I think. How they tried to lure me into the study. If they succeed, I ask, if fully into our world they enter. Grim, Martha's expression is. Everything they would consume, Thomas believed, starting with Millfield and spreading outward. On life, they feed, on consciousness. Nothing but empty husks behind, they would leave. Back I sit, trying to process this information. Insane, it sounds, like something from a horror movie or a pulp novel. But after what I've seen, dismiss it, I can't. So, what do I do? I ask. For a year, contractually obligated to live in that house, I am. A way to contain them, your great-aunt Agatha found, Martha says. A student of the occult herself, she was, but defensively, her knowledge she used. In the house, protections there are, symbols carved into door frames, special mixtures in the paint, that sort of thing. To the East Wing during her lifetime, they kept the entities confined. But now out, they're getting, I say, remembering the shadows in the entrance hall. Yes, she says. Without someone to maintain them, failing the protections are. This would happen when she died, Agatha must have known. So to me, she left the house with that clause about out of the East Wing at midnight staying, I say. Nods Martha. Trying to protect you she was while ensuring someone of Westgrove blood in the house remained. To the bloodline that summoned them, the entities are bound. As long as in the house a Westgrove lives but them access denies, in a kind of limbo, trapped they remain, unable to fully enter our world. But if I leave, I say, stronger they grow, more able to affect the physical world. Eventually, someone else into the East Wing at midnight, they might be able to lure. Someone they can manipulate into through inviting them. So there, stuck I am, I say, keeping watch over monsters that as a gateway want to use me. Unless a way to banish them permanently, you can find, she says. Sharply, I look up. Possible, is that? Hesitates Martha. So, Thomas believed. He wrote about a counter-ritual, a way to seal the doorway forever. But in the study at midnight by someone of Westgrove blood, it would have to be performed. We're specifically not supposed to be, I say with grim humor. Yes, she says. And dangerous it would be. Everything in their power, the entities would do to stop you, to corrupt the ritual and it to their advantage instead use. The book she closes and to me hands it. This, take. Study it. About the counter-ritual, more information there is, about how for so long, Agatha contained them. Help, it might. The book I accept, feeling its weight, both physical and metaphorical. Thank you. As I stand to leave, my arm Martha catches. Careful, Eleanor, be. These things, patient, they are. Over a century, waited they've. Anything, they'll say, anything show you to get what they want. That night, from cover to cover, I read Thomas Collins's book. Detailed accounts of the phenomena at Westgrove House. It contains sketches of the strange symbols used in both the original ritual and the proposed counter-ritual, and about the nature of the entities, personal observations. According to Thomas, in the human sense of the word, evil they aren't. Simply alien, they're operating according to rules and desires that with human morality have nothing to do. Entry to our world they want the way a starving person wants food, with single-minded desperation. A complex sequence of symbols drawn in specific materials, the counter-ritual involves incantations in a language I don't recognize, and most disturbing, from the Westgrove descendant, a blood sacrifice. Not a fatal amount, but enough to seal the symbols and close the doorway permanently. Entirely that day, I stay out of the east wing, and as midnight approaches, in my bedroom I lock myself, placing Thomas's book and a variety of protective items, salt, iron nails, and from the book, symbols drawn, around the perimeter of the room. At midnight, nothing happens. No whispers, no music, no shadowy figures trying to break down my door. Relieved, I should be, but instead, uneasy I am. Regrouping, are they, planning something worse, or actually working, the protection from Thomas's book is? The next day, for the counter-ritual, I begin preparing. According to the book, on a night when particularly thin the barrier between worlds is, it needs to be performed. Traditionally, Samhain, Halloween, the winter solstice, or the spring equinox. Just 5 days away, the spring equinox is. The materials listed in the book, I gather, chalk, candles, and various other esoteric items. The days leading up to the equinox, I spend studying the ritual, memorizing the incantations, and trying to prepare myself mentally for what I'll have to do. At midnight, enter the east wing, the very thing I've been warned against. Whatever waits for me there, confront. A complex ritual complete while entities that as a gateway want to use me try to stop me. And bleed. The night before the equinox, a dream I have. In the east wing study, but different it is. Warm, inviting, filled with soft light. There, my father is, in one of the leather chairs by the fireplace sitting. Exactly as I remember him, he looks. Kind eyes, salt and pepper hair, the smile that always made me feel safe. Ellie, he says, using the nickname only he ever called me. You, I've missed. A dream, I know it's. No, it can't really be him. But still a rush of emotion I feel. Dad? With me, come sit, he says, the chair beside him patting. To catch up on, so much we have. I hesitate, remembering Martha's warning. As loved ones, they can appear. Things you desire most, offer. Not my father, you are, I say, my voice breaking. Dead, my father is. Doesn't change, his expression, that same warm smile. Of course I am, Ellie. Here all along, I've been, for you to find me waiting. No, I say. Whatever you are, his face you're using, his voice. But not him, you are. The thing wearing my father's face sighs, and for a moment, its features ripple, showing something else beneath, something angular and wrong. Then again, the illusion solidifies. Back to you, him we can give, it says in my father's voice. Back to you, everyone you've lost, we can give. All you have to do is for us, the door open. With tears on my cheeks, I wake, the dream still vivid in my mind. More sophisticated in their tactics, they're getting, using my deepest desires against me. Only my resolve to end this once and for all, it strengthens. Clear and cool, the day of the equinox dawns. The morning and afternoon, I spend going over the ritual one last time, making sure everything I have prepared. As evening falls, something I force myself to eat, knowing later, my strength I'll need. Then I wait. At 11:30 p.m., my materials I gather, chalk, candles, for the blood component of the ritual, a small silver knife, and with the ritual instructions, Thomas's book, and the east wing doors I approach. Unlocked again, they are, despite the new deadbolt I installed. A deep breath I take and through step. Quiet the east wing is, normal. No flickering candlelight or ghostly music, but heavy the air feels, charged, as if a thunderstorm is approaching. To the study, I make my way, half expecting to be accosted by shadow figures at any moment. But without incident, I reach the study door. At my touch, it swings open. Empty the room is, dusty, exactly as it was when I first explored it. No fire in the fireplace. No Victorian party guests with black eyes. Just an ordinary, if antique, study. My watch I check. 11:45. 15 minutes until midnight. For the ritual, I begin setting up, the candles in the specific pattern detailed in Thomas's book, arranging, on the floor with chalk, the complex symbols drawing. Slightly my hands shake, but clear enough the lines come out. At 11:55, the preparations I finish. Now for midnight I just need to wait, when thinnest the barrier is, the incantations to begin and the blood component of the ritual to complete. With excruciating slowness, the minutes tick by. At 11:59, suddenly the temperature in the room drops, in the air, my breath fogging. The candles flicker, but don't go out. Eleanor. From behind me, the voice comes. I turn to find my father standing there just as he appeared in my dream. But this time, awake I am. This time, really happening it's. Not him, you are, I say firmly, though my voice wavers. Trick me, you can't. My father's face smiles, but wrong it is. Too wide. The eyes too dark. To trick you, we don't need, Eleanor. Just to delay you, we need. The clock begins to chime midnight, and suddenly with figures, the room is filled, the Victorian party guests from before, but also others. People in clothing from different eras, all with those same black, empty eyes. A circle around me, they form, blocking me from the ritual setup on the floor. What was set in motion generations ago, you cannot stop, says the thing wearing my father's face. The door, Jeremiah Westgrove opened. Only a Westgrove fully it can open, but any blood will sustain us until then. Closer the figures move, their forms flickering between human appearance and something else, elongated limbs, too many joints, skin that with something moving underneath seems to ripple. The silver knife, I clutch, the final component of the ritual. With my blood, the circle I need to complete, the incantation speak, but the chalk circle on the floor, I can't reach. Its 12th chime, the clock finishes. Midnight. At its thinnest, the barrier is. Forward the figures surge, reaching for me with hands that are no longer entirely human. In desperation, across my palm, I slash the knife, feeling a sharp sting as blood wells up. Blood of the bloodline, I shout, remembering the words from the ritual. Blood of the summoner freely given to close what was opened. Outward, my hand I fling, spraying my blood in an arc that through several of the figures passes. Where the blood touches them, they shriek, an inhuman sound that makes my ears ring. Their forms waver, becoming less substantial. Taking advantage of their momentary distraction, through a gap in their circle, I dive, landing beside the chalk symbols I'd drawn. My bleeding hand to the center of the circle, I press and from Thomas's book, begin to recite the incantation, the strange words feeling awkward on my tongue. Recover the figures and toward me rush, but something holds them back. An invisible barrier formed by the chalk symbols and my blood. Against it, they press, their forms distorting, stretching as they try to break through. The one wearing my father's face snarls, all pretense of humanity gone. Its features melting into something insectal and horrifying. Fail, you will, it hisses. To open, the door wants. To be consumed, reality wants. The natural order, it is. The incantation, I continue, my voice growing stronger as I near the end. Suddenly, the candles flare, their flames shooting upward almost to the ceiling. To swirl, the air in the room begins, forming a vortex centered on the ritual circle. Shriek and wail the entities, their forms becoming less substantial, more shadow than substance. The final words of the ritual, I speak, and the vortex intensifies, pulling at the shadow figures. Against it, they fight, clawing at the air, at the invisible barrier, at each other. The one that had taken my father's form at me lunges one last time, its face now completely inhuman, a mass of writhing appendages where features should be. Return, we will, it promises, its voice a cacophony of overlapping whispers. The blood remembers. It always remembers. Its peak, the vortex reaches, and with a sound like the tearing of fabric, into it the entities are pulled, their forms stretching, thinning, and finally disappearing altogether. At once, the candles go out, plunging the room into darkness. In the sudden silence, my own ragged breathing I can hear, the pounding of my heart. Then slowly, to rise, the temperature in the room begins, returning to normal. For my phone, I fumble, turning on the flashlight. Gone, the chalk symbols on the floor are, as if never there they were. The candles remain, but to Stubbs, they're burned down. And on the wall behind where the vortex had been, a new mark there is, a simple spiral burned into the wood, still slightly smoking. My watch I check. 1:01 a.m. Exactly 1 hour, the ritual took. Is it over? Did it work? My bleeding hand in a handkerchief, I wrap and out of the study make my way, half expecting to encounter more shadow figures in the hallway. But quiet the east wing is, normal, just an old part of an old house. In the days that follow, for signs that the entities have returned or that the ritual failed in some way, I watch and wait. But without incident, midnight comes and goes. No whispers, no shadows, no feeling of being watched. Slowly, cautiously, that it worked I begin to believe, that I've closed the doorway Jeremiah Westgrove opened all those years ago. In Westgrove House, I continue to live, the conditions of my inheritance fulfilling. I even to renovate begin, into the 21st century bringing the old place while preserving its historical character. No longer threatening, the east wing feels, just another part of the house. Into a home office, I convert the study, the spiral burn mark with a large painting covering. Into a new normal, life settles. In town, friends I make, a routine establish, even a local architect who with the renovation plans helps, start dating. More quickly than I expected, the year passes, and soon from Mr. Blackwood again, I find myself sitting across, this time in his office in town. Congratulations, Ms. Webb, he says, a document across the desk to me sliding. All the conditions of your great-aunt's will, you've fulfilled. Legally yours, Westgrove House and the entirety of the estate are now, free and clear. Where indicated, I sign, feeling a strange mix of emotions, relief certainly, but also a sense of responsibility, of connection to the past and to the house itself. One more thing, there is, Mr. Blackwood says, into his desk drawer reaching. An envelope yellowed with age he pulls out with my name written on it in spidery handwriting. Upon completion of the year's residence, to you this be given, your great-aunt left instructions. The envelope I take, feeling its weight. What is it? No, I don't, he says. Merely to deliver it, I was instructed. After I leave his office, it I open, sitting in my car in the parking lot. Inside, a single sheet of paper is, the writing faded but legible. Eleanor. If reading this you are, survived the year at Westgrove House you have. I hope also discovered what lurks there you have and a way to end it found. But know this, patient and cunning, the entities are. What you have closed, another may open. A key to that door, the Westgrove blood will always be. Guard it well. Yours now, the house is, as is the responsibility that comes with it. Abandon it, do not. Sell it, do not. In the family keep it and from what waits just beyond the veil, the family keeps safe. The blood remembers, Eleanor. It always remembers. Agatha Webb. The letter carefully I fold and back into the envelope put. As back to Westgrove House I drive, my house now truly and fully, about Agatha's warning I think. Had she tried the counter ritual herself and failed, or only to contain the entities managed, not banish them? May never know, but a connection to Westgrove now I do feel, a responsibility that beyond legal ownership goes. Whatever happened in that study on the night of the equinox, whatever I faced and seemingly defeated, sure it's gone forever, I can't be. And if it isn't, if returns someday it does, ready I need to be. As to the house I pull up, something I've somehow overlooked in all my months living here I notice. Carved into the stone above the front door, a small design, a spiral identical to the one burned into the study wall after the ritual. The front door I unlock and inside step, feeling the house settle around me, familiar now, almost welcoming. Setting the sun is, casting long shadows across the entrance hall, but just ordinary shadows there, nothing more. Soon, night will fall, and then will come midnight, as it always does. But tonight, like every night since the ritual, peacefully I'll sleep, untroubled by whispers or visitations. For now, at least, closed the door remains. And I, Eleanor Webb, last of the Westgrove line, sure it stays that way will make. The blood remembers. It always remembers. And so will I.